Hello, good evening. I welcome all of you to the community. And today we're going to discuss a very important part, which is the TISSNET 2023 English Proficiency Section Analysis. So the test is over, the results are out, and there are some people who could unfortunately not make it this year. And you are still thinking, where did I go wrong? Was this answer correct? Why should this be the answer, and why should this not be the answer? What did I do wrong? So here's the answer to your questions as to where could you have gone wrong, and we will be discussing the solution to all the 30 questions in the English proficiency section of the TISSNET paper 2023. So come, let's start. So the first question was, which word from the given options is most similar in meaning to the word in capitals when used as a verb? So what exactly is a verb? A verb is nothing but an action word. So the word in caps is lock, okay, but it has been clear over here that it should be a verb. What should the meaning be when it is used as a verb? So it's not simply a lock which is used with a key, but a verb. So blind does not make sense. Gaze does not make sense. The gaze is locked is what we use, but gaze does not necessarily mean lock. Bold does not mean lock, so it is engage. I was locked in his gaze. That means I was engaged in his gaze. So the second option, which is engage, is the correct answer. Question number two, spot the error. So we all know that every year we have a lot of spot the error, at least 3 to 4 spot the error questions in the TISSNET paper. And this year was no different. So let's see what the question was. Not only did the students include full sentences from the source without using quotation marks, but they also, see, not only and but also is coming, so वो conjunction वाला error नहीं है, to properly cite paraphrased material. So not only did is in past tense without using, but they also fail. They also fail. Okay, so this is in present tense and this is paraphrased. So again, this is in past tense. Now, we all know that the rule of parallelism is such that the sentence has to be parallel in terms of number and in terms of tense. So that is why this also needs to be, but they also failed, ed. Okay, so that is why the error is over here, they also fail, and the other options do not make sense here. So it is again option 2 for question number 2. Now, question number 3 was a parajumble question. So again, we do know that the TISSNET paper has a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 3 parajumble questions. However, you do have answer choices to choose the correct order from. This year, there was a lead sentence given. That means a fixed sentence which was given and 4 sentences followed. Now, you had to choose the correct order which followed this lead sentence. So we will definitely use the process of elimination here to make our jobs easy. Let's read the lead sentence. Large scale and mega sports events, SMEs, such as Olympic Games and FIFA World Cups, have been more frequently hosted in emerging nations. So the first sentence is E, and we will read E. There is a need to delve deeper into the types of legacies anticipated or realized by emerging nations as a result of hosting sports events and to determine if these differ from those of established nations. So this is again directly talking about emerging nations and established nations types of legacies, which has not been spoken about in the first sentence, which is the lead sentence. So A will definitely not come after my lead sentence. Now, when I look at my options, I can see that it is either A, B, C, D or A, B, D, C, the first two, and A cannot be the sentence immediately after the lead sentence. So I can very conveniently eliminate options 1 and 2. Now, option D does not matter over here. B and D, I'll not waste time reading it. I will straight away go to option C, sentence C, to see how does it relate with the lead sentence. Bidding and hosting SMEs is considered an object policy for many emerging nations, with SMEs be viewed as key factors in local and national development strategies. Now, SMEs has been used so many times over here, and it is directly in continuation with the lead sentence, which starts off with SMEs and about the FIFA, which have been more frequently hosting it. So we will talk about the factors that are required to host it. So C is the correct sentence for after the lead sentence. So C and B will go together. So this is also sorted. This has largely been driven by the assumption that their legacy. So see, legacy here and legacy over here, we had read it somewhere. So in A, we had read it. Provide solutions to economic solution, cultural or political challenges. This makes me feel more sure that D will come before A at least. And that is the case in both these options. Now, however, there is often a difference in the types of legacies anticipated or realized within emerging nations. There is a need to delve deeper into the types of legacies. So, types of legacies is being introduced in sentence D, and it is being continued to be spoken about in sentence A. So, D and A are what I like to call couple sentences or mandatory pairs. That is why D and A will come together, and that is only the case in option 4. So I can very conveniently choose option 4 as my correct answer. C, D, D, A. Now, question number 4 was an inference question where you had to choose the correct inference. Now, inference means conclusion or a logical deduction. So let's read the passage and see what could be the inference. Read the following passage and carefully answer the question that follows. So let's read the question that follows. What can be inferred from the passage? So, every year, the lives of approximately 1.3 million people are cut short as a result of a traffic crash. Between 20 and 50 million more people suffer non fatal injuries, with many incurring a disability as a result of their injury. Road traffic injuries cause considerable economic losses to individuals, their families, and to nations as a whole. These losses arise from the cost of treatment as well as lost productivity for those killed or disabled by their injuries, and for family members who need to take time off work or school to care for the injured. Road traffic crashes cost most countries 3% of their gross domestic product. So this is about road traffic injuries and road traffic accidents and the fatalities related to the same. So what can you conclude from this? Let's read the first option. The economic impact of road traffic crashes is limited to medical expenses, but it is also affecting the GDP. So this is a very narrow inference. It does not exactly cover everything, or it's not a conclusion that you can come up with. So neither a summary nor a conclusion. Now a summary is very different from a conclusion. So please make sure you know the difference between two. Summary is how would you summarize the passage. Inference is what would be the result of writing this passage. So this could certainly not be a result. Disability is not a common result, not a common result of road traffic injuries. Is that what we want to imply by talking about this topic and this passage? No, non-fatal injuries from road traffic crashes are not a significant issue. We are saying that they are a significant issue because even that, because of that, it can cause considerable economic losses to the individuals, their families, and to nations also. So this is incorrect. This is also incorrect. Road traffic crashes can be prevented with the right measures. Well, this is what we can infer. What is the point of talking about road traffic crashes and the loss of lives and how an economy is being affected if we can't help with it? So, what we can infer is that it can be prevented with the right measures. So, it is option 4. Question number 5. The halo effect is the name given to the blank for a positive impression in one area to blank to a positive impression in another. Now, this is a multiple fill in the blanks type of question, which is also very common in the TISSNET. Now, it is a name given to the blank. So, it is a name given to what? A disposition, a propensity, or a decision. So, it does not make it, it's almost like a trend, for a positive impression in one area to, uh, say, pass on to a positive impression in another. So we try to come up with our own word and then we try to match it with the words given in the options. We do not directly try to plug in the options. That is very confusing. So trend, I think the one thing that would go would be probably tendency, right? And pass on to could be lead. So disposition, tend, propensity, led, and decision move does not make sense over here, which is why our correct answer is tendency and lead. All right, so this is a prepositions question, very easy, like a back to basic, back to school sort of a question. What is the time blank your watch? So it will be what is the time by your watch, not on, from, or in your watch. Whenever we ask the time, we should always ask what is the time by your watch and not on, from, or in. Question number 7. Select the option that is the most opposite in meaning for the word underline in the statement given below. He managed to insinuate himself into wealthy circles of the city through his knack of telling unusual stories. So, insinuate means to drive himself or direct himself in an unpleasant way. So, this is a negative term. So, you have to come up with a positive term which could be the opposite of it. So, wedge means to get into something with a lot of force, not very smoothly. So she wedged between, when there was no seat for her to sit on, she had to wedge between me and my partner. Attach means to cling on to something. So again, promote does not make sense over here. So it is actually evince, which means direct oneself in a positive way. Question number 8. Again, spot the error. A favorite of the test. He said that he was suffering from fever since 3 days. Now, it was from fever since, and he said, so both of these are in past tense. He was, so it will be he had been. He said that he had been suffering. So it will be past perfect continuous tense, which is why the error is in he was. So we will eliminate the others and choose option 2. Question number 7, 9, sorry, once again, it's a fill in the blank question. So, fill in the blank to complete the sentence. Such a modern office. So, we are talking about a modern office building. Looks blank in the quaint little town. So, modern and quaint. Quaint means rustic, old, something which has a rustic look. So, a modern office in a rustic looking place means it was looking out of place, right? So basically, my own word would be out of place. Now, which option matches with out of place? Bland means probably not spicy or not interesting. So it's not about it does not look interesting. Imaginary would be it doesn't exist and I'm imagining things. Suspicious would be making me feel doubtful about it. But incongruous means asymmetrical. Okay, so congruent triangles are incongruent triangles, so not going with the look. And that is exactly, so basically it means out of place. Exactly what we are looking for to fill in the blank with. So it is option 2. All right, question number 10. No country should interfere with or in the internal affairs blank another country. Now, interfere with and interfere in. So, I do not interfere with her work, but when it comes to internal affairs, no country should interfere in the internal affairs is the correct usage. So we will eliminate options 1 and 2. Blank another country of another internal affairs of another country. It is always of. So the correct answer is option 3. Now, what made the palace blank was that it glittered and blank. So, when it is glittered, I am expecting the next word to also be in the past tense. Now, glittered and magical would not go because this is not in the past tense as such. Appear and hid. Again, this is not in the correct tenses. So, I can eliminate this. Light and lit almost mean the same. So, what made the palace riveting? Riveting means magnetic, attractive, was that it glittered and sparkled. So, this is the correct usage. Option 3. Question number 12, select the synonym, another synonym based question, vocabulary section for the word underlined in the statement given below. A range of industrial and investment commitments were made by the leaders to assuage public concern and win votes. Assuage means to separate the public concern and simply win. So force is coerced, so this does not make sense. Aggravate means increase. Accentuate also means make it more sharper. And alleviate means separating. So alleviation of poverty. This comes closest to the word assuage. So we will choose option 4. Question number 13, spot the error. It is hard to find linguistic universals amid this world's dazzling variety. Now, if you look at this word worlds, it's with an apostrophe S. Now, world is. Apostrophe S is the condensation of any two words, any word with the word is, with the verb is. So this does not make sense here. So what is incorrect here? World's dazzling. This would be the correct usage. So that is why we will choose option 1 and eliminate others. The error is with world's dazzling. Question number 14, another fill in the blank question which uses and checks your vocabulary skills. And this also has two blanks. The blank artificial intelligence theme is an exception to the blank mode of the technology or ecosystem. So blank artificial, this is obviously a positive word and something which is trending, maybe artificial intelligence. Theme, it's saying theme is an exception to the blank mood. So that means something which is a negative word. Okay. So intelligent and mellifluous, upbeat and exciting. Exciting and boring does not make sense. Buzzing is the closest to trending. And another negative word would be downbeat for it. So option number 1. See, 2 and 4 I can eliminate very easily because these are not going over here. I should only be left with downbeat and exciting, but exciting is again a positive word and I'm expecting a negative word over here. So I will choose option 1, buzzing and downbeat. All right, question number 15. This is an interesting one. Another spot the error question. Most of us do not yet understand that news is to the mind what sugar is to the body. This is in perfect parallelism and there is no error in this sentence. So it is option 2. Question number 16. Which word from the given options is the most opposite in meaning to the word in capitals? Pity. Pity means small. So opposite would mean something big. So or something more. Okay, because pity amount is also what is used, generally used in terms of uncountable nouns. Cogent, tepid, and terse do not make sense. Verbose means someone who speaks a lot, and pity means something which is less. So, and less worded also. So, the perfect antonym to this would be option 1. Question number 17, another fill in the blank, this time with prepositions checking your grammar abilities. I want to run through the jungle. The wind blank my hair and the sand blank my feet. So, wind in my hair is very common. Almost everyone knows this. So, it will definitely be in. So, I can very easily eliminate options 2 and 3. And the sand at my feet or over my feet. So, sand is not over your feet, it is at your feet, like the world at my feet. So it is option 4, in and at. Now, this is a passage and you need to answer the question that follows. So let's take a look at the question. Which of the following can be concluded? So we just did an inference-based question, another conclusion-based question. Let us go through the passage. We do not like to think of diagnosis process as causing as many problems as it is trying to solve. However, when the complaints are more chronic than acute, there is growing concern that a plethora of diagnostic tests and procedures have expectations of always finding an answer or explanation. When that is not possible or tests are not recommended as a first line of attack, a provider's clinical observation and reasoning can seem less than satisfactory. The team shared new thinking about better ways to engage with patients when diagnostic certainty is not possible and how to create strong, trusting relationships that break from the mold of doing something or doing nothing at all. Which of the following can be concluded based on the passage? So the first one, dismissing the patient's concern as unfounded and not pursuing further investigation. This is incorrect. Engaging in own communication with the patient, explaining the limitations of current medical knowledge, and collaborating with them to develop a care plan that addresses their needs and concerns. This is almost the same language from the passage using synonyms, but yet concluding and covering almost all the passages, all the points mentioned in the passage. So we can hold on to this. Now, question number 3, ordering a battery of tests and procedures to appease the patient's desire for a definitive answer. This is quite opposite to what the passage is speaking about. Referring the patient to another provider without providing any guidance or support. This is also not something that the passage is in support of. So these two are incorrect, and this is not, this would be too narrow. So I can go with option 2 over here. Question 19. Again, a parajumble question. So I told you there's a minimum of 1, maximum of 3 questions. So let's look at it. Dholavira, the Harappan city, is the first Indus civilization site in India that received the World Heritage Tag. Now, if you look at option 3, it does start with A. So we are again given a lead sentence and we are expected to answer it and find for the correct chronology which follows the lead sentence. So what is it? In fact, the map suggests that the entire city was shaped like a parallelogram while smaller compartments were shaped as. So I don't know, while smaller, the entire city was shaped. So we are directly talking about shape after it receiving the World Heritage tag. So it does not really make sense. So I can actually eliminate option 3. Now, let's look at C. Everything has been built in perfect shapes, although the purpose of some of these structures is unclear. So, which structures? We are not talking about any structures till now in sentence C. So, I can actually eliminate option 1 from here as well. There were a few staircases going underground, but the entries are blocked with iron grids. So, this could not be the continual sentence to the lead sentence which talks about the Harappan city. So, I can eliminate option 2 also just by looking at the first sentence. Now let me see D. There were a few staircases going underground, but the entries are blocked. The geometric perfection of the civil, sorry, I eliminated E instead of D. I read D and eliminated E. So D is also not making sense. The geometric perfection of the civilization is visible throughout these ruins. So again, which ruins? The Harappan city's ruins. So this makes sense after the lead sentence. Everything has been built in perfect shapes. The purpose of some of these structures is unclear. Now, in fact, the map suggests the entire city was like a parallelogram, while smaller compartments were shaped as squares or rectangles. There were a few staircases going underground, but the entries are blocked with iron grids. Probably they lead to sections that are still awaiting excavation. So D and B are also mandatory pairs. So I can choose very conveniently option 2 as my correct answer. Moving on to the final section of the paper. Before we move on to that, she is blank of flying. She is taking a bus to her nephew's wedding. That means afraid. Now, another word for afraid from what is given here is petrified. Petrified means being scared. She is petrified of mathematics. So, the correct spelling of petrified is not petrified as mentioned in option 1. Purified and fortified is incorrect. So, it is petrified, option number 2. Now we come to the final section, which is the RC. So, before I leave all of you to the passage, let me quickly take you through the questions. So the author will not agree with which of the given options. Which of the given options best represent the author's purpose in writing the passage? Which of the following is an assumption? So purpose, assumption, exception. Can be inferred, inference-based question, and not an argument used by the author to highlight the role of gender discrimination. So I'll give you 2 minutes to go through the passage and read it. All right, let's take a quick glance at the passage. So, the negative impacts of climate change disproportionately affect women and girls, especially in the global south. This is not due to inherent vulnerability, but the result of gender inequalities in the political, social, and economic realms that intersect with other axes of social disadvantage, such as race, sexuality, gender identity, and disability status. For example, during and after climate related events, women and girls are more exposed to gender based violence, and girls are less likely than boys to continue their education. When it comes to employment, women in developing countries are more likely to work in the informal sector, making their livelihoods more vulnerable to economic and environmental shocks. So, what is this passage talking about? Negative impact of climate change, effect on women and children, or rather girls, education, and work culture or jobs. Okay. Despite these challenges, so again, a transition word coming in here. Despite these challenges, women and girls have a crucial role in achieving the climate targets. Research demonstrates that due to socially prescribed gender roles, women assess risk differently to men and typically prioritize the welfare of their families and communities in resource management decisions. So, women prioritize welfare of family more than men do. Such differences in decision making extend to national politics. A 2019 study found that national parliaments with more women pass more stringent climate policies. Unfortunately, women continue to face barriers to equal participation in the environmental decision making, and women led community organizations commonly struggle to access climate finance. Support for women's initiatives and access to resources can drive effective climate action that meets the needs of communities. While women, especially indigenous women and women in the global south, are leading frontline climate action and activism, they are underrepresented in the environmental decision making at all levels. Gender differentiated tasks, including women's responsibility for most unpaid household labor and unequal power relations with families and communities, can limit women's opportunities to participate in local environmental governance. At national and international levels, women continue to face glass ceilings that prevent them from reaching environmental leadership positions. Gender parity in national level environmental decision making is rare, and employees of environmental ministries are on an average one-third women. Gender responsive policy measures can help to overcome. So now we're talking about the solution. These systematic barriers, investment in social services, especially childcare, can lighten the load of unpaid household labor on women, as can flexible working policies and paid parental leave. Creating and enforcing laws and policies against sex and gender discrimination can ensure that climate change space are inclusive and safe for all. All right, quite an interesting passage. Let's take a look at the questions. The author will not agree with which of the given options. There are glass ceilings that prevent women from taking leadership. No, so the author has agreed that even the glass ceilings have not stopped the women from taking the leadership roles. Environmental decision making needs to be inclusive. It is inclusive. It's just about the women thing not being accepted. Women themselves are responsible for their limited participation in the environmental decision making. So yes, this is something that the author will never agree. The author has always said that women have been sidelined, not by choice. So we can hold on to this option. Women's participation in environmental decision is limited because of lack of childcare policies to support their engagement. No, not because of lack of childcare policies, but it was said that childcare policies will certainly help them. So, will not agree with it is this, not that women themselves are responsible. So, it will be option 3. Question number 22. Which of the given options best represent the author's purpose in writing the passage? To advocate for women's representation in climate change initiatives and decision making. So, it is not to advocate about the their representation. The author has spoken about, has basically informed us about not taking side of women representing the climate change. It was more about the challenges that women face. So one does not make sense to highlight the barriers. So again, I spoke about challenges. Barriers and challenges are similar. So barriers in women's participation in workforce. So they are there, but they're not being allowed to participate, which is coming across as a challenge, which is what the author is saying. So I can hold on to this option. To argue that climate change affects men and women differently. The reading is different, but it does not affect them differently. To comment on the importance of climate change initiatives. Without the word women, it will not be complete. The conclusion or the purpose of the passage cannot be complete. So option number 4 is completely incorrect. All right, question number 23. Which of the following is an assumption made by the author? Sex and gender discrimination is the same. No, it is not an assumption. Climate change actions are only constituted in parliaments. No. Informal economy adds to economic insecurity and inequity. This is exactly what the author has assumed. Global South has a higher incidence of informal economy. This is not something that the author has covered. So we can eliminate it and we will choose option number 3. Which of the following can be inferred based on the passage? Climate change affects different groups differently and there need to be localized policies drafted by women. This is incorrect. It's not talking about localized policies. Climate change policies are only drafted by men. No, it was written that it is drafted by women, but they have to face a lot of challenges to come forward. Women are particularly affected by climate change and can bring in stringent policies to mitigate its impact. Yes, this is something that can be inferred from the passage. Climate change affects everyone and everyone should contribute. This is not about contributing. This is about women being allowed to come forward and help with the same because they have a better judgment about the same. So we will choose option 3 over here. Question number 25. Which of these is not an argument used by the author to highlight the role of gender discrimination in environmental decision making? So, which is not an argument? Support and resources for women's initiative. So, this is one of the arguments used. Gender and power relations. This is also used. Lack of childcare policies. This is also an argument for gender. Discontinuation of girls' education. This has not been used in the sense of environmental decision making. It's very important that you read the question. See, all the answers will be a part of the passage, but does it actually answer the question that is being asked is what you need to check with yourself. Moving on to the next passage and the final 5 questions of the paper. So I'll give you 2 minutes to go through the passage. All right. You can take a screenshot and continue reading this. All right, let's take a glance at the passage together. The value of socialization through sports has long been recognized, which is one reason for the state support of physical education in the school and adult organized children's sports program. The effects of sports socialization, however, are not always what the socializers expect. They are in fact quite controversial. From the mid 19th to the early 21st century, sports were alleged to train young athletes in self discipline, teamwork, leadership, and other highly prized traits and behaviors. Empirical research has shown that the involvement in sports can also inculcate a socially destructive desire to win at all costs. Depending on the values of the socializing agents, sports can encourage young people to play fairly or to cheat. The evidence suggests that the propensity to cheat increases with age and the level of competition. Another important aspect of the experience of sports is emotion. The feeling that reflects our athletes' self-evaluation or expectation of their performance, and their perception of others' evaluations and expectations. Some of the feelings expressed are anticipatory prior to performance. Pre-game butterflies in the stomach are as familiar to an athlete as stage fright is to an actor. Other feelings occur during and after the performance. All these feelings are scripted by the subculture of the sport in question. These scripts of feeling rules guide athletes as they manage their emotions, prompting, for instance, appropriate behavior during pre-game renditions of national anthems or during post-game victory celebrations. Norms for the display of emotions vary widely among sports. Rugby players and boxers are permitted to express their feelings with ostentatious displays that are impermissible for golfers and sumo wrestlers. The importance of the contest is another variable influencing the emotions involved. Exhibition matches evoke less intense feeling than football's World Cup championship game. The orchestration of emotions in sports begins with the arousal of expectations, provoking a diffuse emotional state that is then directed into a series of discrete and identifiable emotional displays. In other words, competitors become psyched up. In elite sports, players have already internalized the scripts that coaches call upon them to rehearse immediately before the contest and to adhere to during the contest. It is not, however, just the players who experience the scripting. Drawing upon fans' previous experiences, media pundits and other stage setters also contribute to the management of the fans' emotions. Cues provided by the stage setters prompt fans to express a variety of emotions throughout the game. These emotions range from passionate identification with one's representative team and with one's fellow fans to hatred for the opposing team and its misguided supporters. Fans feel despair when an idolized player is injured. They feel ecstasy when a last minute goal transforms humiliating defeat into triumphant victory. While there may be a scripting or an orchestration of the emotions, individuals vary in degree to which they internalize and follow scripts. Despite such individual variations, rules do structure the emotional experience of sports subcultures. These emotional processes, which help define roles of players, coaches, and fans, also help forge the link between sports and national identity. Interesting passage. Let's look at the questions. Which of the following can be definitely inferred based on the passage? Every person internalizes and follows the same emotional scripts. No, there are socially constructed dominant discourses that shape the emotional experiences. Exactly what can be inferred. So I'll hold on to this. Sports should be watched and played without getting emotional about it. This is not something that we can infer after reading the passage. Parents and teachers might have the best intentions to socialize children into sports, but they are unaware of the negatives. This is not something that we can definitely infer. Infer is conclude. So what we can conclude is that the socially constructed dominant discourses that shape the emotional experiences, there are such, dominant restrictions. All right, question number 27. Which of the following best expresses the author's purpose in writing this passage? So, what is important over here is the first word to conclude, to list, to highlight, and to describe. This really gives away the answer to author's purpose. So, to conclude that negatives outweigh the positives in sports socialization, this is not what the author wants. This passage was not like a conclusion to a say a report. To list the rules in society for those who play and those who watch sports. So he's not listing down any rules to highlight how society socializes. So this is about how society socializes people into sports, not any one particular category. So this could be my prospective answer to describe feelings experienced during sporting events. So he is not describing the feeling, that is just a part of it, but the entire purpose of writing the passage cannot be limited to this. So we will choose option 3 as our answer. Question number 28. Which of these would be the most apt title? So title based questions, sociology of sports. So did this talk about sociology? Yes, it did. Did it talk about sports? Yes. Sports in the lives of children. This is too narrow. It is much more than sports about children. Role of culture in sports. So we are not talking about the culture as such. Sports and global trends. So we are talking about global trends. But again, what are the global trends related to? The sociology. So it is option 1. Question number 29. Which of these is not true about what the author refers to as feeling rules? They guide. So again, we will go through the first word. They guide athletes to behave in unexpected ways. No, this is not true about what the. So this is true, right? This is what the author means. They are dramatized and enacted and not actually clearly experienced. This is completely opposite to what the author said. The author said that they sometimes end up feeling that also, even though they want it to be dramatic, but it automatically ends up being dramatic. So the script really does not, adhere. There is where there is feeling rules. The part which about feeling rules does not play a part, or they differ in intensity based on the stakes of the game. So it is not about the stakes, they're determined by the subculture. So again, these are all out of scope kind of answers. It is not in the scope of the passage. So the correct answer is option 3. Question number 30. Which of the following does the author not suggest as an emotion that fans are orchestrated to experience? So, despair, they can feel that ecstasy. The author does mention about despair and ecstasy, and not or even hatred. So, it is fright that should not suggest as an emotion which the fans are orchestrated to experience. So that brings us to the end of discussing this TISS 2023 paper, English proficiency section. I hope the solutions here are explained, which are explained in detail, help you. If you have any other doubts related to this paper's questions or any other questions from the TISS verbal ability reading comprehension, or as it is known as the English proficiency section, do let us know in the comments below. All the best.